Welcome to First Thursdays, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you join us online today. I am super excited to have all of you online. My name is Rahmat Eyufunjuwu, and I am your First Thursdays host. So I see that we have quite a number of us online right now, and I would like to indulge us, to crave our indulgence to allow other people to join for about, let's say, 2-3 minutes. We have quite a number of people who have registered to join this event. So I'd like to crave our indulgence to allow them to come online. So say another 2 minutes. So in the meantime, please let's enjoy the cool African music. We'll be right back. All right, I think we can get started right about now. So for those who have just joined, my name is Rahmat Eyufunjuwu, and I am your First Thursdays host. And I am very much delighted to welcome you on board this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And like we have always promised for every First Thursdays, today is going to be an exciting session where you're going to connect with other entrepreneurs and gain new business insights from many of our guest speakers. So to quickly run through the agenda, we have our introduction first, and then we move up to opportunities for you in the landscape. We're going to be having insights from our guest speakers, and then we have a closing, after which we have our free ground for networking. All right. So we have our speakers on the call right now. I will be introducing them in a couple of minutes. I'll be introducing them rather in a couple of minutes. And I am joined on this call by my amazing team members at Nourishing Africa. And just to go through some housekeeping really quickly, please ensure to keep your audio on mute so we can have a very smooth session. And the video, please keep them off until the breakout session. And we have, Zoom has quite a number of features through which you can call it for attention. You can raise your hands, you can do a thumbs up, you can clap. And of course, like I mentioned, I'm joined on this call by my team members who will be available to provide links and guidance in the chat box. All right, so let's get to the introduction part. I have introduced myself. So because of our number, we might not be able to take direct introductions, but right there in the chat box, Please tell us your name, the name of your business, and your country of operation. We would like to know you better. And of course, we like to have something called speed dating. So look through the introductions. As other people are dropping their introductions, look through, and please feel free to connect in the private chat to talk about your business and any other areas of collaboration you might see in the person's business. All right, I know that we have a couple of our members online on the call right now. We appreciate our members. We love you. Thank you for being a member of the Nourishing Africa platform. But for those who are not our members yet, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Nourishing Africa. So Nourishing Africa is a knowledge and membership platform, and we, through our platform, provide support to agri-food entrepreneurs across Africa. Our membership portal is an online community for entrepreneurs where they can connect directly with each other and gain access to tailored opportunities, resources such as funding, data for their businesses. And of course, being a knowledge platform, we pride ourselves in bringing to you up-to-date and trendy opportunities and content in the landscape that is critical to help these agri-food entrepreneurs to scale their businesses. I think we have a video, a really short video that really just sheds more light on what we do. So keep the introductions on while the video plays. All right, please go ahead. Awesome. Thank you so much for the video. So moving on, just diving right straight to the heart of today's topic. So we'll have a poll so we get to know, where you're dialing into this call from. And, I mentioned earlier that we are going to have breakout rooms where you will be able to connect directly with other entrepreneurs that are on the call with us. We understand that the chat might not be a very effective way to connect. So the breakout room is right there for you to connect directly. So this poll is going to help us to understand which breakout room you want to be in, and of course to get to know you better. So please take 1 minute actually to fill this poll. Our colleague would have dropped the link right there in the chat. So click on the link and let's get to know each other better. Right. I see that a couple more people are joining us. Welcome to First Thursdays. We're really delighted to have you on board. If we can have the link again, I know that I saw a couple of people joining just now. So please drop the link for the poll. We are taking a poll right now to understand more about you, about your business, and which breakout room you would love to participate in during the networking session. So moving on, I would invite my colleague Ife Umona to take us through some new opportunities in the agribusiness sector. And please keep the introductions coming and feel free to connect. A colleague will also be dropping the links to these various opportunities in the chat box. So keep your eyes peeled out for that. All right, Ife, are you on?
I am.
All right.
Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to run through a few opportunities that are available for agripreneurs across the continent that we think are really important and that we hope that you leverage in the efforts to scale up your businesses. The first are financial support opportunities. Many times we know that there are so many things that are going on across the continent in terms of where you can access funding or support, but it's important to actually know about them. So we've highlighted 3 here, starting with the AFDB Agri-Pitch Competition, which is available to all countries on the continent, to the Innovation Partnerships in Food and Agriculture Call for Concepts. That particular opportunity is only available to businesses in Zambia. And the last is the deep price grants for entrepreneurs and NGOs for all countries. These are all grants and they're all open until November per se, so you have about a month to look into it. These are also all available on the Nourishing Africa hub. These and many more are all available. If you go to nourishingafrica.com/funding, you will see this and a range of other opportunities available. You can also filter by a country, by a focus area based on what it is you're looking for. A few capacity building opportunities as well as a Growth Africa Acceleration Program, which is available to businesses in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Zambia, and that closes in 2 months. And we also have the VV Grow Fellowship, that's specifically for female entrepreneurs across the continent, and that's also available for the next 3 months. And then we have the Agriculture Skills and Acquisition Program, and that's available particularly to train young people in Nigeria, and that's rolling. It is a training course that is available to more than 500 young entrepreneurs. So if you do qualify, please look into this. They are worthwhile, and we really implore you to do so. When it comes to events, as we know, during the COVID-19 period, it's really important to stay abreast in what's going on. And for us, it's important that people know about the events, particularly the online events that are happening as it relates to agriculture and food. And the first is the Platform for Big Data in Agriculture. And that's going to be taking place from the 19th to the 23rd. As I said before, all of these are on the Nourishing Africa Hub. So in this case, it would be /events, and you'd be able to also see the Social Innovative Program and Awards, which is happening this Saturday, as well as the Pan-African Soybean Variety Trial Virtual Seed Marketplace. And that would be very interesting if you are involved in primary production, or if you have interest in seeds. That's one you don't want to miss. Part of Nourishing Africa is that we have a range of programs and initiatives aimed at helping you answer questions or trying to tackle challenges that you currently have. And one of the ways we do this is through the Ask an Expert segment, where each week we have an entrepreneur or an expert in a specific value chain or a segment of agribusiness, business, and beyond, who are able to come on board and answer questions that you have posed. And for us, we've seen that the more specific the questions are, the more tailored the answers are, and they're really beneficial to our users. This week, starting today actually, we have Felucia Agbaje, who is the head of human resources at Jobberman. She has an extensive history of HR and capacity building from KPMG, and she has an array of skills that will really help in answering any questions you may have, particularly during this time in terms of HR and COVID-19. So please feel free to go on to nourishingafrica.com/ask-an-expert and pose your questions, and she will answer them this week or next week. We also have a range of original content in the form of podcasts and recorded webinars, where we have entrepreneurs and industry experts come on board and record 10 to 20 minute short audio podcasts that are aimed at providing quick tools and resources and information to other entrepreneurs. And they range in topics, and we're now available on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. So you can listen to us on various channels, including on our hub. So please do take a look at those as well. Naturally, we think it's very important that as knowledge continues to evolve, we evolve with it. And given the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw that there was ample time for people to brush up on their skills. So we have an e-learning and knowledge platform that's dedicated to providing a centralized place where you can access information on various courses and online courses as it relates to agriculture, business management, and entrepreneurship. We have range from University of Johannesburg to agricultural risk management, which is from the National Open University of Nigeria, to Lagos Business School. There's a range of them as well on the hub. Please take a look at them. And then we also have the social media engagement through our Twitter and Instagram lives. And the idea of this is that we showcase our members who are agripreneurs across the continent. We want people to know more about what they're doing. They're also able to share how they've been able to overcome challenges. And they just give a real life example and story as to how they got to where they were and how they are able to proceed. And we find that not only is this inspirational, but it also helps other entrepreneurs understand what is needed in order to move forward, essentially. And then we have a COVID-19 resource page, and this page on the hub is dedicated to providing tools and information as it relates to COVID-19 and your business. All these links are being dropped on the chat box, so you will be able to directly click on them and see what it looks like. And then we have the agribusiness, COVID-19 and agri-food businesses in Africa newsletter. And through this, we are truly trying to show the various ways entrepreneurs have really been able to tackle the challenges that have come with the pandemic and how they've been able to be resilient and pivot their business models and continue going. We've seen that not only are these stories motivational, but they're very practical, and they provide really insightful knowledge to all of us, whether we're entrepreneurs or not. And lastly, we have the COVID-19 Entrepreneur Support Program that we're going to roll out in the coming months. And the idea of this is to try and help over 500 agribusinesses either pivot their business models or ensure that they're able to withstand future shocks through a range or 4-step program. Thank you. Back to Ramat.
Thank you so much, Ify. I am sure that those opportunities will be very much useful to funds out there. So I will implore that you look up each and every of these opportunities. And you know, one thing that struck me is that when we're talking about funding programs, and one reason I am actually super excited about this session today is that we're talking about winning a business, building a winning business pitch, right? I mean, who doesn't want to win that fund, want to connect with the latest opportunities in the sector and actually apply and win those opportunities? So here we have brought you 4 fantastic speakers who will be sharing their insights on that. So, but before we go right to our speakers, we will like to take a poll on the topic itself. So we want to understand if you've been, applying for a couple of opportunities, if some of you have won some funding or you've won some awards, fellowships, competitions, and let's have your insights on how that has, impacted the business. So a colleague of mine would have dropped the link right about now. So let's have your take on that as well. And while that is ongoing, I would like to share the results of the first poll. I find it interesting that we have more of West Africans who have joined us. And give me a second while I put that up in a second. All right, but in the meantime, please take the poll to let us understand your perspectives and experience on building a winning business pitch. All right, it's looking like my poll results are not showing, but I can see them here. If you can, you confirm if they're showing.
Yeah, I can confirm that they're not showing.
Okay, let me give it another try. All right, can we see them now?
Yes.
All right, so we have a whopping 70% joining us from West Africa. Thank you, and a shout out to all the West Africans on this call. I think next time we might probably have more South Africans joining us. We have about 80% of 10 people, that's 8 people, say they're not members of Nourishing Africa, of the Nourishing Africa Hub. Believe me, you're missing out on quite a number of opportunities, resources, and tools that can help your businesses. So I would advise that you get right on board now. My colleagues will be in the chat session to guide you through the membership. Now, in terms of objectives, I find that actually very interesting that networking with other entrepreneurs is the priority. Well done. I think it is important to network with other entrepreneurs and share experiences with them, which is one of the reasons we've created First Thursdays in the first place. And yeah, I see that many of you want to connect with other entrepreneurs in the breakout room, which is fantastic for us. But for the singular person who has chosen to find a new supplier, we'll find something to do about that. So please keep the poll for the business, building a winning business speech on. And I will take the introductions about the speakers right about now. Like I mentioned, we have 4 fantastic speakers who have joined us today, and they will be sharing lots of insights towards how to build a winning business speech. So we have Modou Hennessinje, we have Manlan, we have Danai Musandu, and we have Yvonne Otieno. So they are from different regions in Africa, because we know that we have a diverse participation from different people across the continent. So I'll start with Carl. I'll read out his profile, just so you understand that we're not playing right here. We've brought really interesting folks to share. So Carl works at the intersection of public, private, and civil society sectors. As a Mo Ibrahim Fellow at the Economic Commission for Africa, he focused on industrial and agricultural policies designed to accelerate the transformation of the African continent. Prior to his current role at Ecobank Foundation, he led a private-public initiative to support an African response to Ebola in West Africa. He is the COO at Ecobank Foundation since May 2016, and he is responsible for the foundation's social impact engagement with communities. He holds a Master's of Public Administration from Harvard Kennedy School, and he is also a 2016 Aspen Institute New Voices Fellows. So moving on to Danai. Danai also is going to talk from an investor's perspective. So what we've done is that we've brought you the speakers from different perspectives, an investor's perspectives and an entrepreneur's perspective. So they can tell you what an investor wants to see in your pitch, and the entrepreneurs who have bagged several awards and competitions will tell you what they have done so well to have earned this recognition, awards, and funding. So Danai is the Investor Relations Associate at Goodwell Investments, which is an early stage impact investment firm focused on inclusive growth in sectors providing basic goods and services, of course, which agriculture is a part of. Danai is committed to growing the early stage investment landscape in Africa and is involved in various initiatives as a mentor and young thought leader. She's an in-house mentor for Excel Africa and Startup Bootcamp Africa. So for Modou, Modou is an ICT expert with over 20 years experience as head of IT for UNDP, Deloitte, and 2 major banks in the Gambia. Over the past 5 years, Modou has transformed himself into a social entrepreneur by starting up Farm Fresh, which is the #1 online food store and delivery service in the Gambia. And, you know, one thing that is interesting about Modou also is that he has participated in some really interesting competitions and earning the venture in nomination for Emerging Business in the Gambia by the Commerce in 2015, He also won the Sisters Startup Competition in the Gambia, and recently in 2017 as well, he won the Future Agro Challenge Global Competition held in South Africa. For Yvonne, who is the CEO of Miyonga Fresh Grains in Kenya, she's a farmer, a multiple award-winning entrepreneur as well, and has won several awards under her leadership, including the Synapse Business Plan Competition. She has also won the award Innovation Week in 2017, Top 50 Innovators in Africa at the Africa Innovation Summit in 2018, and most recently won the Kenya Catalytic Jobs Fund competition in 2020. So we have all the speakers lined up to guide us through how to build a winning business pitch. All right, so are you online, Modou, Carl, Yvonne, and Danai?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
I can see you. Okay, now is the time. Okay, so let's get started. All right, I can see you, Danai. Hi, Modou. Hi, Carl. Yvonne will join us in a couple of minutes. Okay, I think I would still like the slide to be on. So for participants who will just be joining us so we can understand what part of the program we currently are on. Okay, so I would like to ask us to share a couple of insights from their various experiences. And I'll start with Carl and Danai, because I think Carl would be able to know where to act in this case, giving us perspectives from the investors angle, and as a person that, as you know, is an Aspen fellow, also Mo Ibrahim fellow. So, and as for Danai, of course, she's been relating with several portfolio companies as the investor associate at Goodwell Investment. So, Danai, can you share some insights? So we're going to take about 3 or 5 minutes for this session, and then we're going to have a Q&A where the participants can ask direct questions from each of you. So really this session is going to be a short one, just to give an insight into the work you're doing and the experiences you've gathered so far, all related to how to help our participants to build a winning business pitch. So then I'll start with you. Please share your experiences.
Great, thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody that is joining online from wherever you may be. I hope you're well, good, and thanks for giving time to hear the little bit that I might have to say. I hope it's important enough for everybody. So it's a general question that you just asked. What are investors looking for? And there are multiple things that investors consider when we're looking at a potential investment. But let me try keep it as simple as I can, which is looking at 3 very fundamental and important things. The first is remembering that it's a journey. So typically people think that investors think at one point in time, which is actually not true. Investors look at businesses that are on a journey. We look at things from a perspective of a moment over a period of time, and not just a moment in time. And so you should always remember that investors are looking for traction. They're looking for you to show that you have committed or shown that you have created market traction. So we will always look for one thing that's important, which is traction. We want to see some revenue. We want to see that you actually have a product that's viable. We want to see that there's someone out there that's willing to really take the risk of, partnering with you. We want to see that there are people who are willing to pay for your products. So the first is the journey and also the traction. That's super important. Without it, it's kind of like selling a dream. And investors that are more sophisticated, it's difficult for them to make that kind of decision without traction. The second one that's important that people typically might forget is the team. A team is super important. You need to show that you have enough expertise around the table to deliver what you want to deliver, this vision that you are telling us. that you think that you're going to deliver on. And the best way to show that is to show that there's diversity in your team, there's diversity in thought, there's diversity in race, gender, that basically a good indication of people who actually know how to execute. So I mean, there are two types of risk that investors take. One could be execution risk, the other would be technological risk. So the technological risk would be people investing in something new, a new innovation, something that's never been done. But on the most part, investors are investing on the execution risk, which is your ability to be able to deliver what you have to deliver as a team. Then the third one that I'm going to mention that's also a really, really important factor is grit. Do you have the ability to weather a bad storm? And so from an investor perspective, you want to see mistakes and you want to see people who've learned to make those mistakes. And so you should also be agile in your ability to make mistakes, but at the same time be able to pivot and change when the course of wind is wanting you to change. So I think that those are like very key things when we're saying what we look for in entrepreneurs. Then I will go to a pitch. So if we were to talk about a quick and dirty pitch that you're meant to do, I think there are always, again, 3 key takeaways that you should always have. The first thing that I always want to know is, what is your business model? What is it? What is it you're doing? What is the problem? And why is this problem important? And why is the solution that you have really important to address that problem? That's always the first. The second one that's always important in a pitch is, how are you going to make money from it? I mean, entrepreneurs always typically forget the business model. That's the really important question. How are you going to generate revenue from this business model that you've come up with? Then the third and last thing is, what's your vision for the future? Investors are only investing in the future. They're not investing in the now. They base their decisions in the now, but they're also looking to what is the potential and the future. So what is the future that you're selling me? What is your growth plan? And where do you want to be in the future? So I don't know if I need to go further than that, seeing it's a short segment of time that we have. I want to open up to many questions that might be asked. So.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Danai. And I think our participants have come with their questions, so you definitely will be getting more from them directly. So I'll move on to Carl so we can hear more about what investors want to see in your pitch. And then he's going to throw in a mix of his experience at winning the Aspen Fellowship and then the More Ibrahim Fellowship as well. So over to you, Carl.
Thank you very much, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be on this platform. So very thankful for the invitation. To what Danai said, I'll add 5 points to that. I think number one is that a good idea does not necessarily translate into an investment, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. The second one is that you shouldn't go and look for money to launch your initiative. The third one is that the first risk taker is actually yourself as the entrepreneur. Because if you're not willing to take the risk for your business, why should somebody else do that for you? Then we need to think about the importance of having an account, a bank account, because the bank account gives everybody a clear indication of what the data says. And that is something that a lot of people need to be able to do. And it raises maybe 2 other problems. Number one is around access to an identity. You need an identity to be able to open an account. And it's still a challenge on the African continent in terms of getting an ID. The 5th point is that we need to remember that fundraising itself is not a business model. And that's what Danai raised this point. A business model is actually a product or a service that you have identified a market for. If you have this brilliant idea that you don't have a market for, then really it is not a business model. Now, at a sort of those elements around the Aspen Fellowship and the Mo Ibrahim Fellowship, I think they are key elements. One is authenticity. You need to be who you are and not try to be somebody else. Present yourself with the aspirations that you have. So it's the same as a business model. People need to see that the trajectory that you have taken is going somewhere and they're willing to invest in you. So that was the same for the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. that believed that there was something in me that in the application that I put forward, allow them to believe that I was on a trajectory that will help me in that process. I often say that becoming a Mo Ibrahim Fellow was the difference between continuing to take the stairs and actually being in a lift, with electricity, of course, that actually goes up. And then in terms of the Aspen Fellowship, what he has done, it has helped me to use ideas in a way that I can communicate to a wider audience and use that platform for things that will not necessarily be evident and collaborate on ideas. And I think ideas have a power, and that's what most entrepreneurs want to do, to take those ideas and turn them into something that they can either make a living of it. But if you make a living of it and you're not helping your community, you may not be able to succeed, because those are your potential customers. And the last article that I co-wrote with Efosa Ujomo about the prosperity paradox touches on those elements, where if you think about Mo Ibrahim a few years back, when he decided to provide access to telecommunication to rural, to any African on the continent, that idea was not a business model, but it was a good idea that he believed in it, and he took the first, he was the first taker in terms of the risk, and eventually he paid off. So I think there are examples that we can learn from. Closer to us in Togo, there's the founder of Ecobank and also the founder of Askai, who believed that it was important to create a Pan-African bank, because financial institutions are the glue that allows society to move. And if you're an entrepreneur and you receive that investment, well, you need a bank account. And those are some of the important elements. Get yourself an account. Even if there's not enough money, at least there is movement and the instruction that you can use. And I'll close on this point around, remember that it's not, I saw a comment in the chat saying that the biggest issue is about access to funding. I'll differ slightly and say that the biggest issue is actually access to market. Because if you have a market, going back to my point, there will be a trajectory in terms of somebody wants to invest to ensure that you can get into that market. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl. I find that very informative. And, you know, just to sum up what Carl and Danai had said, grit from Danai, that's really important. The team, that's absolutely important as well. Your product and raw market, and I think Carl also touched on this as well. Your uniqueness as an entrepreneur, having an account, and, you know, just setting up things in place that better positions you favorably to these investors. All right, so I'll move to our entrepreneurs who are on the line right now, and we have Modou and Yvonne. So I'll start with, I think Yvonne is still going to join us. I do not see a video on right now, so I'll start with Modou. I'll start with you. So as an entrepreneur that has bagged several awards and you know, raised funding for your business in different capacities, what are your key success factors? What did you do right to position your business? How did you build your pitch? I'm sure other participants are dying to hear your thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Rahmat, for the opportunity of inviting me to share my experiences in terms of, you know, carrying out a successful business pitch. I run several startups, and the most commonly known ones are Farm Fresh, which is the Gambia's first online food store and delivery company, established seven years ago, 2013. And also Money Farm, which is an agri-tech crowdfunding platform where we match investors with agripreneurs to help them scale their agribusiness, you know, to the next level. That said, yes, I have won a couple of awards, especially the local Seed Stars competition that was held in the Gambia in 2018. At that particular time, my startup called Money Farm was only 2 months old. So that just tells you that sometimes it's not about the age of your startup when you're doing the pitch, but it's about the content of your pitch and how effective it is. Most of the my fellow pitchers were probably 6 months, 8 months almost a year older than my startup. However, I emerged victorious, and I want to mention some of the key success factors that probably led to that victory, which led us to going to Switzerland to participate in the global Seedstars competition in 2019. Similarly, in 2017, I also won the Future Agro Challenge Audience Award in South Africa, Sandton. So I'll just focus on a couple of areas. Some of the areas have already been highlighted by my fellow panelists. One key thing that I believe is very effective when either writing a pitch or when actually doing an actual, presentation in front of an audience is that you should practice the idea of storytelling. That's when you are giving your pitch, don't make it too boring or mundane, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. What I think is very effective, which attracts investors, is that you tell a story behind the problem that you're trying to solve. So talk about it and just have something that would attract their attention. It's almost like acting a movie. You just start with a phrase, a catchphrase, just to draw their attention to you, and start telling a story about how someone had an idea and had some challenges in terms of getting access to fruits, and then got frustrated, and then went back and thought about it and started thinking of solutions, and that sort of thing. I think it's a very effective tool, rather than just going straight into describing what the problem is, the solution. You can do that in the form of a storytelling. It's very, very effective. The other aspect that I want to also highlight on is you also need to have an idea of your target audience, your target market. That is to say, you have a product that you're selling. Who do you want to sell to? Who are your customers? You need to identify them clearly. And also, you should know about your product and the uniqueness of your product. How does it stand out of the whole bunch, all the other competitors? What makes your product unique? You need to have a unique selling proposition. So this needs to be featured clearly, vividly in your pitch to make it interesting to any particular investor. And also, in as much as you're yearning for investment and you want to gain as much funds as possible or give out equity, one rule of thumb is that you should not give out or propose to give out more than 50% of your equity. I think no matter how desperate you are for funding, make sure that whatever percentage that you're offering to a potential investor, it is maximum 50, but much below 50%, no matter what the amount is, especially as a startup. Probably gradually later on, you can be giving out maybe 10, 15 and things of that nature, but certainly you shouldn't give out anything above or propose to give out anything above 50%. And the last bit that I wanted to mention is that you should be very confident, and you should show that zeal, that enthusiasm, and that you're not just reading a story, or you're just not reading from a screen or from a script. Make sure that you connect with the investor so that they really know that you know your stuff, that this particular business idea, this belongs to you, and you're not just regurgitating something that was said by someone else. So show a lot of enthusiasm and interest, and this would definitely also be a big plus for you. So far, I think I'll stop there until we have further questions.
All right, amazing insights. Thank you so much, Modou. I'll summarize right after Yvonne has a say. So Yvonne, I would like to come to you right now. You are an agripreneur with so many awards, and recently I was delighted when you sent to us that you won the Kenya Catalytic Funds. Congratulations once again. And I am sure that others are looking out for how you actually backed that award and the several others to your name. So what are your big success factors And what would you recommend to other entrepreneurs out there? All right, Yvonne, you're on.
Okay.
Awesome. I can hear you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and speak really slow. And if you allow me, because the connection is a little bit terrible, I will just remove the video and only speak so that it does not interfere with the.
Okay, that's fine.
So, okay, so thank you very much again. It's a great honor to share my story as an entrepreneur. And the one thing that I would say is that if you're pitching to investors, one of the most important thing that investors is that they're human. At some point they were where you were, they were in a position where they were pitching something. So often I would say everyone that has been on this call and that has had a pitch, you have had more mistakes than things you did right. So investors are happy to learn about your mistakes and how you corrected your mistakes compared to your perfection. I think everyone who's here has probably gone to the internet and searched the best pitch practice. You have probably seen the best pitch decks ever, but at the end of the day, no pitch deck that you have, no practice that you do is different from the real life experience that you as an entrepreneur have had. And telling your story and being authentic to who you are and your mistakes, and knowing that even the best laid plans, the best laid projections, the best laid pitch deck, the best designed still has some errors in it. Show your errors, show your mistake. The investors are real, and they would rather work with someone who can say, come on, this is who I am, this is what I've done, but in the process of doing this, these are the challenges I've faced. However, despite these challenges, I am still here. So they like the real deal story. They're not looking for the perfect TV, perfect business pitch. They just want you to keep it real, because investors know even the best laid plans will go wrong. Just before I came into this call, I'll just give an example. I mean, I had everything set out, everything laid out, and just 1 minute before the call, I stepped on a glass and it had my feet. So just about 2 minutes, I had to have someone do some first aid on me. I was thinking maybe I need to go to hospital, but at the end of the day, I said no. One of the things entrepreneurs do is you show up even when you're in pain. And I like what Carl has talked about earlier. Sometimes you're the biggest investor in your own business. What is your skin in the game? That's one thing that investors look like. How much sacrifice have you as an individual made to actually make the business work before you ask somebody else to put an investment into your business? And again, my colleagues have talked about the business model, they've talked about the value proposition, they've talked about quite interesting things, but I'll tell you the other thing that's most important. Fundraising, as Carl has said, is not the end of the game. At the end of the day, you need to show that this is a business and that it's a viable business and you have a strong business case. And one of the ways to prove that you have a strong business case is who is buying what you're selling. Who has taken time to spend money to buy what you're proposing to sell. So your customers are your biggest investors. The reason to look for more investment is if you have more customers, then you can meet the demand in terms of the supply or the capacity to produce what they need. And then you seek investment to be able to fill that gap. If you can tell that story and keep it real, that's the best. So again, be real, be authentic, do all your homework. Yes, get all the pitch decks that you can, revise, make your model, use the proper slide presentation as is all recommended. But experience and being real and having a real viable, strong business case is the best thing an individual would have. Keep it real, don't act perfect, none
Okay, we're losing you, Yvonne.
of us perfect. Thank you.
All right, we lost the last part, but I guess you were summarizing the points, and it's really important points you've actually raised. And I'm summarizing what you and Modou has said. Modou has told us not to make your pitch boring. And I think that's really important because you want to, just outline the various things you've done and just, keep writing or keep talking to your investors, but you have to tell the story like Modou has said, and then understand your flexibility when it comes to stakes to your potential investors. He has said we should make it about or less than 50%. I see a in the chat who says 5% for investors. Well. We'll get to know more as we interact further in the Q&A. And confidence, enthusiasm, authenticity, that we can never say enough of that. And I think many of our panelists right here have mentioned authenticity, keeping it real, and just staying true to your challenges and uniqueness. And Yvonne also mentioned viability, building a strong business case, and really just putting your business out there. So now that we've heard from the horse's mouth, we've heard from the several speakers, I'll open up the Q&A, and this is how we're going to go about it. So for our participants that have any questions, please use the raise hand button to let us know that you would like to speak. We will take direct questions and speakers will be ready to answer them. So use the raise hand button to let us know that you have a question, and we will unmute you so that you can ask directly. So who is going first? The floor is wide open. All right, anyone? I do not see those hands up yet. Okay, a few are coming in. I think I see someone.
Okay, so I'm unmuting. Adebi, please ask a question.
Oh, hello, good evening, everyone. I would like to find out for the investor's perspective. As an investor, do you always expect that the person you want to invest in must have carried out a pilot test on the idea, or are you receptive to seeing just the business model and the pitch, and then you can risk it? I hope I see.
Just a second. I would like for whoever is asking a question to actually indicate which of the speakers you're posting that question to, so it's easier for them to really pick it up and you provide the answers. So Adebi, who would you like to answer your question?
Oh, me? Oh, I would like the first person that spoke. I can't pronounce her name.
Danai. I've lived a whole life with my name never being pronounced correctly, so that's fine. I'm sure many people can do that on this call. So the question that you're asking is, do all investors need to see some pilot proof of concept before they put money? So this is the journey of investing for your business. The first place you always start for money is where you can get it for free. So the first place is friends, fools, and family. That's always the rule of thumb. That's where you raise money from first, because it's typically going to be money that will have less harsh conditions. Or you will look for money that will allow, that you have, so from your savings. That's always the starting point. And that kind of money is the money that would be okay to just ideas. As you go on and you start talking to different types of investors, the requirements become more stringent. So you start off with friends, family, fools. Then you move on to angel investors. These are typically entrepreneurs that have made money, or people who have excess money that might connect with you, like your idea, and would like to see where it goes. And they'll throw a couple of $1,000s to you to say, run with it, create the pilot, let's do it. Let's see what you'll do, what you'll get. Then you'll move further along that line, which will be coming towards more early stage investors and more VC investors. And they will also invest a couple of $100,000s, but by that stage, you need to have shown some sort of traction. You need to show some proof that your pilot has actually worked and you actually are either still finding market product fit, but there's a good likelihood that that will happen. And as you continue down the line, then there's more evidence and more criteria that needs to be applied. So it depends who you're talking to. And so I'm assuming maybe your business right now is at the stage where it's an idea. And so I will always say the best place to then look for money is friends, foes, and family, or within your own savings, or you look at grants that are available, initiatives that are out there that's free money. Another thing I want to point out to everyone that's super important, don't let investors be the goal of what you want. That's expensive money. Let me just really let you know real quick that having investors come on board is the most expensive thing you'll do to your business. Equity investing is an expensive thing for you as the entrepreneur. So it shouldn't be the first thing that you're always looking for to scale your business.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's really wonderful. And wow, we have some other people. Ify?
Yes, Adara had actually had her hand up, so I've just unmuted her. Adara, do you still have a question?
Oh no, I was the one that asked the question, the first one.
So the next question is actually typed in by ASP, who has a question for Modou and asked, what is the percentage to be offered to an investor?
I don't think.
Okay.
Well.
Go ahead,
thank you,
Modou.
What is the percentage to be offered to an investor? Several factors. There is no hard and fast rule as to any specific percentage that you want to offer an investor. It depends on the valuation of your business. You need to value your business. That's actually one key point that I forgot to mention in my first statement, that you need to know the worth of your business. If you really want to gain the confidence of an investor, you can't make it up. You can't just come up with a random figure. Oh, I need $100,000, or just come up with just a wild figure. Oh, my business is worth $50,000, so I'm offering 10%. You know, it doesn't work that way. And investors, or a lot of investors, they do their research, they do their due diligence. Most of the people that really want to invest, people that they know the stuff, you know, so they would rather listen to you to see whether you make any sense. So it really depends. But I would recommend keep it as low as possible. But first, do the valuation. Do a valuation of your business. Know how, especially as a startup. If you're a well-established business, maybe that's a different ball game. The percentage could be higher in terms of equity. But as a fresh, startup, just out of the box, you can't just start and then just sell 50% of your business just like that. As is it Dana, right? Dania stated earlier, getting an investor is a big headache, and it's a big it's going to cause a lot of changes in your business. In terms of your comfort zone, there are a lot of things that you would have to give up. You know, you will not be in total control of your business anymore. Once you get an investor on board, it's like an invasion. So you have to be prepared for that mentally and psychologically, that you no longer own the business 100%. Even if you're giving out 1 or 2%, they'll definitely have a say, whatever that say is going to be. So the amount can vary, really, but as I earlier stated, it shouldn't be more than 50%. That's what I would recommend. But value your business, and based on that valuation, you'll know how much to give out. But don't be in a hurry as well. Don't be in a rush just because you have an investor who has shown interest. You know, there might be other investors who would want to come on board, and you also need to know the type of investor that you want. There are different types of investors. You have some who just want to be dormant. They don't care about what's happening. If that's the type of investor you want, fine. But that's not ideal. Probably you might want someone who's going to add value, not only in monetary terms, but also in terms of knowledge, in terms of networking, you know. So you have to put all these factors into consideration before giving out a percentage. Okay, thank you.
So,
Add something to the contrary to that quite quickly.
I just knew then I would have something.
Yeah, there's
Right.
some things I just have to say from an investor's perspective that might be a little bit misleading right now. First point I would like to state, I saw someone making a comment that you'd only give 5%. You are selling yourself the biggest lies. That's not possible. It's just, it doesn't happen in that way, because you also have to understand the structure that goes into investments from the investor's side. For instance, we have a fund. Our fund has to raise money from LPs, other people, and we have a particular return that we require for them. And that means that we have to come in at particular prices to make sure that our investments make sense at the end of the day. So if you ever think that you could get away with having an institution only taking about 5%, only just 5% at a very, very early stage, that won't happen, purely for the fact that you don't have revenue there. So when we're talking about valuations, that is something that you should only be really looking at when your business has revenues. That you actually have something that we can add a multiple to for us to get to a valuation. I will always warn against you creating or having a valuation of your business very early on. The problem is typically if you get a valuation pretty early on in the stage of your business, you're going to do one of two things. Limit your growth potential, in the sense that if your valuation is too high in the beginning, it means that the next time you're looking for money again, it's going to be so difficult for you to raise, because that valuation just doesn't make sense from any investor trying to come in. And so that means that previous investors lose out, and you also lose out, because you might be giving a chunk of your business away for value that you haven't actually created. So always delay the process of having a valuation to your business. In actual fact, there's some of our businesses which we've invested in that we would only do convertible notes, because it actually might be detrimental for that business at that point in time for us to add a valuation, because they're not ready to be priced yet. You have to give them room to grow and to grow into the numbers that they want to get. So at this stage, when it's super early, stay away from having a valuation, focus on giving proof. When it does come down to like the percentages that you realistically will be giving away, always remember, the earlier you are in the journey, and I mean really at the startup phase, you're most probably giving away a bigger chunk of your business because of the risk that's associated with the venture. It is only further on later onwards where you'd be giving away smaller stakes of your businesses. Typically the rule of thumb when it's early stage investment, so let's say you're post revenue, the percentage you're looking at for the stake that you'd be giving a round of investors is between 20 to 30% of your business, typically is what you're actually looking at. That's the reality. And so the earlier you are in, there's higher risk. So most probably you're giving away a chunk of your business, and that's why you should delay raising money for as long as you can. Bootstrap your business to the point where you have enough traction to show that you are worth the valuation that you get, so that you don't have to give away a lot of your business away. And then on the other point that was made about never give away 50%, more than 50% of your business. Well, the reality is one day you want to exit your business, and an acquisition will need there to be a takeover. And that's a sweet exit for you. If you've grown your business and Google decides to come in and they say, listen, we want to have majority of this company. You've built a beautiful engine and we want to merge or acquire your company, you'll be giving away a controlling stake of your business, and that will be your exit. That will be you building a business to a stage where another company wants to purchase it, and that's giving away control. So really, yes, it depends on the stage at which you're looking at, but it's also just not as simple just to say, oh, investors should never take the most chunk or whatever. It really depends at what stage you are at your business, what you can leverage, how much traction you have. And typically entrepreneurs, you always think that you know, you need the 10 million, 1 million valuation. The reality is when you look down at the numbers, If you're saying that your business is worth, let's say 10 million, then you need to be showing me something of around, maybe let's even say 5 million in revenues for me to give you maybe 2 times for that valuation to be 2 times multiple. Even if we're saying a 10 times multiple on your revenue, that means you need to be doing 1 million in revenues just for me to give you a 10 million valuation. So that is the reality that you need to be thinking about when you're looking at valuations, is what does my revenue actually have, and can I actually achieve from 1 million to 10 million for the valuation to actually make sense in the space of 2 years or even a year?
I will add something here, because I think maybe what is also at play is that people want to get rich, you know, and get rich very quickly. So there's a song that maybe, I mean, the title of a song by 50 Cent, which says, "Get rich or die trying." We should try to get out of that. On the African continent, we need people that are willing to stay and not just exit. So if you're starting a business, the objective is not for you to just get rich and walk away. There are millions of people that you can help by having a business that actually can create jobs. This is what we need. So when you think about why you are creating your business, yes, you want to, you have read about all the big acquisition and you see all those big numbers, but there must be a social impact to what you're trying to do. Because of where we are at the moment on the transformation of the continent, we can't just be running after money. We must be able to think about how what we do is helping others to actually grow. I just want to add this to the comment that we made.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Oh, Yvonne, all right, please go right.
Yes. Let me just add, I'm very glad that Carl has brought that up. Adds down to your values. It boils down is that you see those who are coming in, and there have been situations where we had investors who wanted to come in, but when we looked at their values as investors as well as our values, then there was a conflict. We stuck to what our mission and our values were, and then and I like that he talked about the idea that you want to get rich quickly. I will tell you that it's been 5 years of us just teaching our businesses and our business. And I'm glad that there's an investor online, and the advice that she's given, I wish I'd been given much earlier. I would not have been chasing so much after investors rather than I would have been building my business. So in the last 5 years, we've lost more pitches than we have won. But when every time we lost a pitch, for us, that was a lesson. So go through the journey. Sometimes we'll pitch not because we really wanted to get the investors coming in. Then for us, it was more like, this is practice. Let's imagine that this is the real deal. What are the questions the investors are going to ask us? So we treat it as a learning experience. So after 5 years, and miraculously, in each of those 5 years, our business has won awards. But in each of the 5 years, we did not all win investors. At some point, I had to take on my life insurance to actually invest in my own business. At some point, I had to borrow, like she said, from friends, food, and family. So just go through your journey, go through your experience, you will learn something. But the minute you start to think about getting rich quickly, you will do what someone on the chat, I think, is asking. Do I need to fabricate a story? That's the first sign of failure. Do not fabricate anything. You can give examples, you can create a scenario, but do not fabricate a story. It doesn't help. At the end of the day, the investors will find out. They do their due diligence. And the market will also find out your story is not real. So stick to your values and think about not just getting money. Think about solving an actual problem. The minute you're solving an actual problem, whether it's in the marketplace or it's a social problem, the money will come, the money will follow you, but make sure you go through the process.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to make a further buttress or a clarification on the percentage that I mentioned, like when this, I think one of the participants asked about that 5%. So it really depends on the worth of your business. I'll give you an example. There's a telco company that started here in the Gambia a couple of years ago, I think about 5-6 years ago. And the CEO or the person who started it owns only 5% of the business of the telco, right? And it was a startup, but that 5%, you know, translates into millions. You know, it's worth millions. So it really depends. It's not actually the amount per se. Like if it is a double digit or single digit, a single digit can actually be very, very valuable and very attractive. And as I earlier stated, also it's really, really important that you also assess the type of investor that you want on board. Some investors can be very, very harsh and they can be pestering you. You're going to have nightmares. And also think about what value are they going to bring into your business? Are they just going to give you that money and then go to sleep whilst you work, you do the donkey work and then pay them off, you know, in a year or two? So think about it, think over it as to the type of investor that you want. There are different types of investors. For me, I was never, I use myself as an example. I was never in a haste to get investments. I didn't have any startup capital. I'm an IT expert, so I built the platform myself. That itself was a form of investment, you know. So look inwards and look at what you can do for yourself first before thinking outside, looking for you know, investors. It's a good thing, but as Yvonne stated, don't be in a hurry, don't be in a rush. See the things that you can do for yourself, and then think about investors that can actually add value to your business. All right, thanks.
Thank you. So we have John who has his hand up, so I'm unmuting him now, followed by Usman and Martin. And if you could just quickly ask your questions and get quick responses so that we can move to the breakout sessions soon. We want to ensure that we get everybody's questions. There are also some questions in the chat that I will come to in a second.
All right, good evening, everyone. I appreciate this platform and I am really glad that I'm part of you. I quickly want to ask this question, and if you permit me, I want Carl to really hit on it. Now, I don't know where I can be helped. I have a vision into animal production. Now, I do more of organic farming of farm animals. At present, I do more of snails because of, you know, the nutritional content and whatnot, really snail and rabbitry. Now, by the side, I also have what I feel will help to make the organic whatever make more sense. That is a research institute. Now, I set up some people who are like my university mates then, those who are in field of medicine and whatnot, because it's really out, it is born from the health issues that's impending the populace. So now I don't really know how I can get, we've gotten to a point whereby we want to execute a project based on some of our findings, especially if you are used to the medical world, zoonotic diseases. So I don't really know how I can be helped in that regard because it entails funding. Thank you.
Carl, just before you answer the question, I wanted to say for other participants who would be posting their questions. So because we didn't mention it at the beginning, John, you can fly with that. But please, when you come up next, you have just 1 minute to ask your question, or even less than that. So keep it very concise. And we're talking about building a winning business pitch here, right? You have like less than a few seconds to impress your investors. So you have to keep it short. Start with your name, the name of your organizations, a brief about that organization if that's really necessary, and go straight to your question. And so subsequently, let's have...
Thanks for that concession.
Thanks. Yeah.
Maybe I need to correct myself. I'm John Kola Olive, Licol Global Ventures. Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
That's
Carl, please take the question.
Yeah.
So maybe a comment. We need clarity because there's different elements in your comment. There's organic farming. There's a friend of yours in studying medicine. There's snails that you are hearing, and you want to do some research, but I'm not too sure what you want to do your research on. I think it's important that you have to be clear in terms of what you're asking, And I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you offline. They have my contact, they can share it, and then we can talk. But it's hard for me to answer your question the way you have framed it.
Thank you. So we have this.
That would be better. Yeah.
We will connect you to one another after this session. And next we have Usman.
Usman, remember to keep it short and concise.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I observed that many businesses in Africa are facing the problem of pitching. And the idea, they have the business idea, of course, but I realize that many young Africans are facing the problem of pitching, how to pitch to their investors, the potential investors. I realize so many businesses are facing such problem. So I don't know if there's a way to assist these startup businesses, because startup businesses in Africa, we have like 70% of startup businesses, and many of which are facing funding challenges. So that's my input.
Who is your question addressed to?
Anybody can come in.
I would let Carl take that.
So I'll start maybe with, let's think about our mothers and sisters that are doing, that are collecting money every month so that they can build a portfolio. They're not pitching their ideas to anybody. They have seen an issue and they're using their own resources to solve that problem. So I'm not too sure that the issue is about pitching the idea. The issue here is saying, I will do with what I have, make it work, and then someone or my community will invest in what I have. For some reason, we seem to forget about what's happening in rural areas, and we focus very much on what's happening in urban areas. The pitching idea is happening over time in terms of what people do to make sure that the products or the services is actually sold. If you think about in urban areas, a young person on the streets of any of our cities trying to sell something is pitching at that particular moment to sell a product that may or may not work. So I think we maybe probably need to demystify this whole idea that you show up in front of people and they'll just give you money. The first people that will give you money, as Danai was saying, are your friends, the fools, and your family. Because there's already something around trust that exists. So if we have to accept that it will start at home or in our community, then we'll start to build the community better and not only think about the big numbers. Yes, big numbers are important, but let's start to think about community. Let's start to think about small and how the small can grow incrementally. Those big jumps from being small to big don't happen in all circumstances. For some people, but those are exceptions. They're not the rules.
All right. So much, Carl. We really have to get the conversation moving so we can wrap up the Q&A. A number of people have expressed interest in the breakout, so we want to get that really fast. If any more people.
We have 2 more people. There's one quick question that we'd ask Yvonne in chat that essentially, there are a few questions, but it's all around how to actually find the investors, their directory, particularly for youth. That's been asked directly. So Yvonne, if you could.
I can take that. If I can just quickly take that. I know I'm not a panelist, but I'm a member of the Nourishing Africa platform. One place you should go first is nourishinafrica.com. So we try as much as possible to put our information out there related to funding, capacity building, and other awards and fellowships that are useful for agri-food entrepreneurs. So go to Nourishing Africa and www.nourishinafrica.com/funding. And of course, you can also reach out to us directly via WhatsApp, via our email. So you can ask a couple of questions around what other opportunities are available. And if any of the speakers have an answer to this, of course, please feel free to answer. I think that's also an important one to get your perspectives on what other directions are available out there.
Let me try and add that with Martin's question. And Martin is going to come on now. And then Epi, and then we're going to close off.
All right, let's take the next 3 minutes to wrap up then.
All right, thank you. My name is Martin from Kenya. I run a company called Lekateton Farm. We provide further solutions to smallholder dairy farmers. My question goes out to Carl. First question is, when seeking investors, when do you go for debt? When do you go for equity? Question number 2 is, when seeking equity investors, what's the perception of investors to the clawback clause on equity? 3, what's the preferred valuation model? And 4, is there any social model to evaluate your business? Thank you.
Martin, you came with 4 questions. Okay,
So
Carl,
I think, Danai, I'll lean on you to start answering these questions.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, so the first one, equity versus debt, it's pretty simple. If you are at a stage where you're willing to give away a portion of your business and you have some traction and you need to scale your business, you typically look for equity. Equity is for scaling. So that's new team, new product, new geography. That's kind of the money you use for equity. Debt, you want to use for capital intensive bits where equity is just too expensive because you have to give away too much of your business just to raise enough money, let's say, for manufacturing or CapEx expenditure for your business. However, you should only use debt when you know you got enough money to pay off your debt. So you typically need to have cash flows by the time you're looking at pure debt instruments. What I would suggest to most people is to look at convertible notes. Those are very common instruments being used specifically in the early stage for businesses where you have instruments that behave like debt that will eventually convert into equity, but they aren't really debt instruments. So research on Y Combinator, safe agreements. There's also a KISS agreement as well. There are different variations of convertible notes that are out there that are actually friendly to entrepreneurs. And actually sometimes those instruments aren't great for investors, but it's a happy medium of it. And then there was the question on
valuation.
On valuation.
She was asking on the formula or process.
So there are different ways of getting to valuations, and it depends what you're looking at. So you can look at valuations from revenues where you apply a multiple, and multiples in Africa are kind of difficult to get down to purely for the fact that we don't have enough data on what is the going price that people are paying for particular businesses. So you'd have to rely on some deals that have been done in the industry and also on what is there in public information in terms of trades, stocks in particular sectors. So you'll know, for instance, some general rules of thumbs. Your technology-based businesses will typically have very high multiples. The reason why they have super high multiples is because they have super high margins. High margins in the sense that they can make margins of about 80% north, purely for the fact that the operational expenses that they have are so minimal. And the amount of revenue that they'll be getting in is big. So they're big companies. And then you'll look at businesses that are closer to the agri space and you're going to see more conservative margins that are in that space because the expenses and the capital expenditure that goes into growing those businesses sufficiently more. Also margins change, also multiples change depending on where you are in the spectrum of the business. Earlier on in a business life, you'll typically get higher multiples given to your revenue, really for the fact that it's goodwill that's being built. And then you'll find as the business begins to grow and have more revenues, that multiple will start to come down. For more mature businesses, you wouldn't look at revenue, you would look at EBITDA, earnings before interest and tax. That's typically what you would then look at as a measure, because those businesses might be too big. I mean, if a business is having revenues of, let's say, 50 million, right, a year, if I'm meant to apply a multiple to 50 million, that valuation just looks a little crazy. So you'd maybe use EBITDA for a multiple. So there's a multiple approach. Then you also have another approach, which is a discounting. And so now I'm getting a bit technical, so I don't know if I should get super technical, but you have DCF models. So you can also Google DCF models. And those are typically when you have businesses that have cash flows. So you use a discount model. So you have a terminal value of saying, okay, this is where I want the business to reach in terms of its value. And then I'm going to discount. I'm going to also use, a risk factor. And then I'm going to, a discount factor. And I'm going to, do a present value of money and find out what the value of the business is today based on where the value of the business will be in 5, 10 years. That's a DCF model, which is only useful when you actually have cash flows. It's difficult to do a DCF model without cash flows that are present. Then the last version of looking at valuations is more from the investor perspective, which is the investor will start from the position of saying, okay, I want to have at the end of this investment, let's say a 20% return, or I want to have a 40% return, or I want to have a 50% IRR on this investment over X amount of time. And the investor will ask themselves the question, how much money would I need to invest? And at what valuation do I need to invest over X period of amount of time for me to achieve 20% or 50% IRR or 20% return on my money or 2 times my money? So that's from the investor perspective. And when you do that, you're just calculating backwards to find out exactly what is the value of the business going to be and how much money would I need to put into that business to achieve a particular return. What's commonly used is the multiples approach at a startup level, because there isn't much that's there. It's just revenue or some things that we're assuming in the air there, so it's thumb sucking. So typically you'll find that revenue multiples are used at the very early stage of the business. I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, one more question, which I asked is, when seeking equity investment, what's investors' perception to introduction of the clawback clause?
So the thing is that, so what is their perception of introducing it, or is it common practice to have it?
Yes, both of them. Is it a common practice, and what's the perception to introducing it?
Okay, keep in mind that we have less than a minute to wrap up the Q&A. We've actually overspent our time here.
So what would you like me to do? You want me to respond or let it go?
You can maybe respond in 30 seconds.
Okay, 2 seconds. They differing opinions about using clawback mechanism. Entrepreneurs might find them as penalizing provisions. Investors might find them as protective measures. It depends on the structure and the risk profile of the investment at that time that will determine whether those provisions are included. However, it is kind of normal to have clawback clauses. It's not unheard of. It's just the same way you'll have tag along, drag along rights that investors have. And particularly when investors are coming in as minority investors, i.e. they're not a majority holder of the business, they want to have protective provisions for themselves. Yeah, so it's something you can discuss with your investor. Those are the things that you need to negotiate, but you also always have to ask yourself the question, is this a clause that really is changing the nature of my life entirely? or the business, or is it just a protective measure for the investor?
All right.
Danai, much appreciated.
Okay, I think we will have to wrap up. Apologies, Ify. I know there are some other people who want to ask questions, but what we will do is this. So for those of you who still have questions, please send them to info@nourishingafrica.com. We will forward to the speakers, and I would like to create and Yvonne. We will be forwarding you the questions we get. Please, we know you're very busy, but if you can just provide those answers, and we will forward back to the participants who have asked these questions. So moving on, I think it's been a very insightful session with you, Danai, Modou, and Yvonne. Thank you so much for the insights you've shared. I personally have learned a lot, and I know that our participants have done so as well. So moving on to the next steps, we'll take this really quickly so that we can go to the breakout rooms. And imagine that we will have quite a number of people in those sessions, but if not, I think it's really evening time. So our next steps are we will invite you to join the Nourishing Africa Hub. There are lots of opportunities for agri-food entrepreneurs right there. From funding, access to funding, there's a marketplace in your membership portal where you can announce and put out requests for your business. You have opportunities to advertise your business for free. We constantly seek out discounts on agricultural inputs and services for you. There are exclusive invitations to personal training and online events. So these are really opportunities you will want to tap into, believe me. So please go to nourishingafrica.com/entrepreneurs to sign up. And of course, you can also follow us on social media. We post several opportunities right there. So at Nourish_Africa for Twitter and Instagram, yes, and Nourishing Africa on Facebook and on LinkedIn. We have a feedback form. I would also implore you to take this feedback form. We want to improve and we want to serve you better. This topic for this First Thursdays was actually crafted out of the last feedback form that we had in August. So we asked the entrepreneurs who had attended, what next do you want us to talk about? And we saw that a pitch is clearly one issue that they wanted to talk about. Our last topic was investment readiness, by the way, and we got this topic from there. So let us know what you want us to talk about at the next First Thursdays, and we'll get right on it. So I think we're at that point where we take a good picture. I always love pictures. So this is what we are going to do. Our presenters, our speakers, please do not leave yet. We would like to take a picture with you. So please turn on your video, everyone, turn on your camera, and let's have a screenshot of everyone who is on here right now with our speakers. We will be putting this up on social media. So please drop your social media handles in the chat and we will tag you when we post this picture. All right, put on a smile. I really love pictures, so do not mind my excitement. Put on a smile and let's take this picture. Ify, can you do us the honors? Please make sure you take everybody. Drop your social media handles, we will be tagging you. All right, please give me those smiles. Ify, are you ready?
I've done it like 5.
I'll take another one. I wasn't smiling in that one.
3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you, everyone.
So thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate your time. We know it's really late, especially in East Africa right now. So we will start the breakout room. I know that some people did not mention which breakout room they want to be in. So we have 2 breakout rooms. We've created one where you can interact with other participants to find maybe a new supplier or distributor for your business, and another one for connecting directly, sharing experiences. I know Salami Rukayat wanted to share some experiences on equity for companies. So if you can indicate that right now, I'll put you up in those breakout rooms. So you can indicate in the chat as well. We've only had a few people take the poll. Probably we had it so early into this session.
Thank you very much to everybody. And to our speakers in particular, I see that they have to leave. But thank you once again for joining us. We truly appreciate your insights, and I know that I've learned a lot our team has learned a lot, and everybody else on this networking session has definitely taken something home. So we truly appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Ify, for giving that closing remarks. So the breakout room will be up in 2 minutes. And I would also like to extend my appreciation to our speakers. You're awesome, awesome people. Thank you so very much for joining us today. And of course, to our esteemed participants, we wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much for joining this session. We really appreciate the time that you've taken to participate. And of course, we hope that we will see you next First Thursdays. I think the theme for next First Thursdays is continental trade and exporting your agri-food produce. So I think that's an important one for you to attend as well. And someone asked a question around debt versus equity funding. That's another First Thursdays for December or January, I think. We have a lineup with various things, but of course we're willing to be flexible based on your feedback that you give to us in terms of what you would like us to speak about and what speakers you would like us to bring on board. So thank you once again, and see you in the breakout room in 2 minutes. The breakout room will start in 2 minutes.